This is Flight Training the Way I See It with Mike Schiffer. Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of Flight Training the Way I See It podcast with your host, Mike Schiffer. And this is a video podcast. It backs up our newsletter that we send out every month at CFIbootcamp.com, CFIbootcamp.com. At the bottom, you'll find a way to opt into the newsletter. So we're going to talk today about several topics. One is the FAA is stopping to provide test supplement books for knowledge tests, so people won't know what those images are going to be ahead of time. Ooh, that's going to happen soon. Talk about that. We're also going to talk about the fact that airlines are now slowly hiring, but you should not slow down your training. Reasons for that. Reasons for that. We're going to talk about it's thunderstorm season. How do we fly in South Florida during the summer? Those of you not flying around thunderstorms, what do we do? What's different? Then we're going to talk about the fact that our power hours, we just finished one here a second ago, number 300 is coming. Can you believe that? 6 years of power hours every Saturday. 300 is coming in August the 8th. Big milestone. We're going to talk about some things we're going to do for that. We're also going to talk about the release of our CFI Aeronautical Knowledge GAPS course. It's now ready. And we'll talk about who this is for and what it's for and how it can help you. And then, of course, we have 3 pro tips for you. 3 solid pro tips. One of them is actually one of the better ones we've done. Gotta tell you, okay? It's gonna be pretty good. You're gonna be able to use the information on an airplane right away, right out of the gate with this. All right, without further ado, let's get after it. All right, now we're going to talk about the first thing, which is the FAA is going to stop providing test supplement books for knowledge tests, starting with the IFR test, the IRA test, and that's going to be starting October 27th, 2026. So what's happening is the FAA is trying to avoid people memorizing things, trying to prevent that, I should say. And so one of the ways they're doing it is by not providing that test supplement book. Now, any image can be in there. You won't know what it is. So PSI is going to lay the image onto the question or near the question in some way. You'll have the image there, but it can be generated at random. So the test question might be one of those VOR questions or HSI questions where there's pick one of 4 and they'll be in different orders. It could be such that there's an entirely different image there. So we don't know. So that's the idea. And I'm kind of in favor of this. I would also like the FAA to use a weighting system. What I mean by that is currently every question has the same point value regardless of the complexity. It'd be better for a more complex question to have a higher number of points than a rote one. So for example, currently you could skip learning the entire flight planning section for the ATP, private, commercial, and still get a good score and not know anything about flight planning. With a weighted test, this wouldn't be possible. Now, we had a conversation about this even today. So to be fair, we had someone on our power hour last Saturday who posed a very valid question. He asked, what accidents or incidents created the need for this change? It's a good question. So I looked into the safety records between FAA general aviation piston airplanes, pilots, and EASA, European stuff. And the data is kind of difficult to compare because EASA doesn't report accidents per 100,000 flight hours, but the FAA does. But in the data available, it appears there is no real difference between pilots who took EASA's rigorous knowledge test and those who took the FAA current knowledge test. Now, I believe we can structure a better oral examination if the knowledge test results more accurately reflect the applicant's actual knowledge. It could be the reason that there isn't a huge difference in accident rates as the system we work in and the airplanes we fly. There may be elasticity there. If not, we could bear out the whole story, but we don't have the data. So elasticity means something like the airplanes are very forgiving. What would have been an accident in a harder to fly airplane wouldn't be in this airplane. What would have been a weather situation was cured by using some technology to make up for things that we didn't know. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. So be prepared for this. So if you're going to take a knowledge test for instrument rating, also for the remote pilot knowledge test, those are changing and those test supplement books will be gone. And we're going to see when the others change. I don't have any data on when that's going to happen. Our next topic here is that airlines are slowly hiring. They're not hiring at the rate they were before, but that doesn't mean you should slow down your flight training. The rumors are true. Airlines aren't hiring many new pilots or FO positions. There's still good opportunities for experienced captains. I know that's not what you want to hear, but there are. Now, for those of us who have been in this business for a while, this is not new. Lots of things can throw off hiring, like ticket and fuel prices, mergers, airlines shutting down like Spirit, and so on. It's a cycle that has many moving parts. I think you need to treat what is happening like you do some kind of investing. It's called dollar cost averaging. Investing the same amount at the same frequency does not matter. You keep investing the same amount no matter what happens in the market in the same frequency. In the short term, there could be a loss. But if you stay, the upside usually comes and the payout is over a longer time. So you're just keeping going through the ebbs and flows without trying to find peaks and valleys. For those of you training now, I would recommend completing your training through CFI and CFII. Yes, it's very difficult to get a CFI job right now. But if you wait until things get better, two things happen. First, you aren't qualified for the job because you don't have the certificates. Second, the person who did get the job will be hired by the airline sooner than you will and have a lower seniority number. And everything in flying professionally is about your seniority number. Now, it may be that you need to take another job on until the hiring returns. If so, stay current, be ready to work as soon as a job becomes available. Also, in my experience, jobs are available at times. It may be in different state, different city. It may become known to you because of someone you met at a conference. Who knows? So if you're just starting flight training, I think this is good for you. You should be done in a few years, and there should be an upside by then. It could come sooner. But by being in training, you can set the pace. If you need to slow down, you can. If you need to speed up because hiring is getting closer, you can control that too, for the most part. Now, if you're a new CFI or CFII, keep looking. If you have a few friends that want to learn how to fly, you can make a good case to a Part 61 school to let you work there because you're bringing them business already. If you aren't able to do that, at least be persistent in looking for work. Go to conferences and events. Make a point to join NAFI and SAFE. There are people in those organizations who have their finger on the pulse of flight training and who may be hiring. Many flight school owners belong to these organizations. There's also another one called Flight School Association International that represents flight schools. They have an annual conference. You can see which schools are members on their website. Schools that join these associations, NAFI, SAFE, FASANA, typically have a more dedicated approach to flight training, and in many cases are the busiest schools. Okay, our next topic, weather related. It's thunderstorm season in South Florida. How do we fly in South Florida during the summer? Kaboom! It's nearly summer in South Florida and the swamp is starting to boil, which means hot and humid conditions and the return of thunderstorms. For those of you who don't get thunderstorms, the only experience you've probably had is what you've read or a video you've watched. You've got the basics, like how they form, the differences between air mass and frontal storms and the like. You also know that you should avoid them by about 20 miles, going around and not getting close. Flying through a thunderstorm is almost never survivable. So what do we do here in Miami from June until late October, which is our hurricane season? Well, it's all about the climatology in the area you're in. Here, we typically have air mass thunderstorms build up in the afternoon and move with the local steering winds aloft. They're slow moving, typically. We do have frontal thunderstorms that move rapidly, and you can see the difference in speed on the movement in the radar. But you also see frontal action associated with that. You actually see the fronts. Here in Miami, the air mass thunderstorms begin around noon and end around 5. In most cases, we just don't fly then. There are exceptions. For example, most storms are powerful and short lived. There can be windows of no storms while another series approaches. Not always, but sometimes. We may use this opportunity to depart and do a cross country into better weather, allowing us to return after 5 or when everything settles down. By looking outside, we can see these storms and avoid them if they're mostly scattered. We never fly below clouds with defined rain shafts, huge downdrafts and microbursts are in there. We don't fly near a cloud with active lightning. We're also mindful of cloud-to-cloud lightning and avoid those areas, even though the cell isn't exactly there. We also use ADS-B radar. We don't rely on it to get near, but we use it to avoid and look for opportunities between storms. If there's hail in the forecast or we see big supercells, we try to hangar the airplanes to avoid damage. Usually we have agreements with Signature and other FBOs like that to hangar them if there's any suspicion and move them back out of the hangar when the storms are over. Yes, this costs, but they have rigs to do it quickly. People come to our place to train in thunderstorm season sometimes ask, can we fly now? And I answer, yes, but you won't come back. The last piece of advice I'll give you about thunderstorms isn't about them per se, but it's closely related. Don't park your plane under or near a coconut palm tree with coconuts in them. These coconuts can do a lot of damage during a wind event associated with a thunderstorm. Some areas are prone to flooding in the ramp, so ask where your intended parking space is. Standing water can prevent you from getting to your plane, and sometimes for a while. Drainage is typically quick after a storm, but not instantaneous. Okay, Power Hour number 300 is coming in August, a huge milestone for us. This is only 10 weeks away. We just finished our 290th today, which is Saturday. It's May the 30th. That's over 6 years of every Saturday that isn't a holiday. We've covered a multitude of topics in almost every airplane related area. We started with 8 people on Zoom during the first show. Now we regularly have over 500, sometimes higher than that, 600 to 1,000. We also added wings credit for most shows and an after show that I just finished, by the way. It ended at 4 o'clock, which we open up the mics, we let people talk. And that show today, our show started at noon, went to 1, and then we opened up the mics and talked, and people were talking and relaying information. We had a drone pilot there who works for the Memphis Police Department asking questions. We had a person who's using a lot of AI in his business, writing around AI spreadsheets, and he's also a pilot, of course. And we had just a lot of people talking about a lot of things. And we finally ended at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 hours of conversation we had in the after show. And we started off with about 500 people. And I usually cut it off when we get down to about 40. And we had about 37 by the time I got back. I also was able to give a walking tour of our Lincoln Road here in Miami Beach, showing botanical gardens and such. That was just for fun. That was near the end of the show to get a more personal approach to, because our people, we like to know them and we like them to know us. Okay, so let's carry on. We added wings credit for most shows, like I said, and then the after show with the open mics, that's been a real success. And it's a venue that no one else has. It's free for the after show and for the regular show. And we have people in the room who always amaze us. We've had past FAA managers of entire divisions within the FAA. We've had test pilots, ALPA past presidents, AMEs, DPEs, aviation researchers, every kind of pilot instructor, and so on. Everyone's welcome. Everything is free. The after show, like I say, it can go on for hours. We typically start around 2:50 at the after show. And then by the time we shut down, we usually about 40. We just listen. It's kind of like popping popcorn. When there's more than X number of seconds between pops, we shut down. It's rarely before 2 hours after the show. And like I said, we did about 4 hours. 3 hours, I guess it was. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 3 hours. The week before, 4 hours, went to 5. What a great way to spend a Saturday that you aren't flying around people talking about flying. We also rebroadcast the show each Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a smaller after show. We still have it. And around 130 people show up for that. It also has wings credit. And Nick and I are there to answer questions and keep the flow going. Now, we're going to do something super special for the 300th show. I don't know what it's going to be, but there's going to be freebies, a super sale, and I'm planning to host a few games in the after show with prizes. So join us every Saturday at noon Eastern Time for the Power Hour. You can go to our website, cfibootcamp.com, and you'll find at the top left, it says Power Hour, and you'll find a way to register for Power Hours, because we'll send you an email, which will be midweek, to say what the topic is. We'll send you an email about an hour before the show opens, and we'll send you one as it opens. So you're not going to miss it if you're by your email. Okay, now I'm going to talk about one of our new products just released called the CFI Aeronautical Knowledge GAPS course. It's now ready. And so we're proud to release this for those studying to become flight instructors. This course addresses the hard stuff in CFI training, those areas that are not just any CFI knows. So a good use case in this course is you have a CFI who's qualified to train initial CFIs, but they aren't good with the FOI endorsements and training outside of student, private, and commercial pilots, and maybe flight reviews. They don't have lesson plans that fit into a syllabus that you can use, and so on. They're great at everything else. They're at your home airport, and they have a good relationship with the DPE who does initial CFIs. So maybe you've even tested with this DPE before and you like the person. Home field advantage for sure. If this sounds like you, then this Knowledge Gaps course is for you. It covers all the hard stuff in 4 modules. The first module is Fundamentals of Instructing. It's taking each chapter in the Aviation Instructor's Handbook and making it conversational and teaching you how to apply it to instruction with examples. So you can have a conversation with your DP about every single chapter. The second module is using a syllabus and modifying lesson plans. It shows you how to use a syllabus, modify a lesson plan to become a pre-flight briefing, how to teach the same lesson to different levels and to different learners, and so on. So this is very powerful stuff. It's teaching. The third module is training, endorsements, and testing requirements for all ratings you're allowed to do. This addresses key FARs, things that are hidden in there, like logging pilot command time, like soloing someone from a rotorcraft helicopter into an airplane, using wings credit in lieu of a flight review, these kind of things. It also covers initial certification for recreational, sport, private, and commercial certificates, additional category and class ratings, how to solo someone, a person who holds a certificate other than a student pilot certificate, flight instructor regulations, flight review, and other aircraft authorizations. And we use scenarios and flowcharts in these lessons. And finally, Module 4 is practical training. It covers how to use IACRA as a flight instructor, how to validate or give wings credit, and how to modify your teaching to fit a learner. Now, this course also has study guides for each lesson and a quiz with answers and explanations for each lesson. There's also a comprehensive workbook that I just finished that has quizzes, games, fill in the blank, matching, and other activities. It also has a 100-question final test with answers and explanations, and it covers this entire course. This is a bonus document, and it's only going to be provided to newsletter or Power Hour subscribers who purchase the course. Now, the course list price is $600 bucks. But for this coming week, you can get it for half price, $300. We always do half price when we release something. That includes the new workbook as a bonus as well. You also get a copy of our endorsements and scenarios ebook, which includes 53 scenarios with solutions, and they cover everything from private pilot, sport pilot, commercial pilot, additional category class, student pilots, flight reviews, and there are scenarios in there with worked solutions and flowcharts in most cases that guide you through the correct regulations. And the last thing we need to do to call this done are pro tips. 3 of them, and they're quite good. Let's look at them. Number 1, don't push on the spinner. The spinner is a full metal cone that attaches to a nut plate. The nut plate is attached to the engine where the propeller is located. Now, the spinner's function is to direct airflow into the engine and over the cylinders for cooling while flying. If you push on the spinner, especially on the sides, you can crack the nut plate and possibly tweak the spinner. It doesn't take much force to do it. So push on the propeller hub and don't turn it, or you can also push on the engine cowling instead if you're careful about where you push, but don't push on the spinner. Number 2, don't leave the tow bar connected unless you're using it, actively using it. Many pilots have taxied and even taken off with the tow bar connected. It's very easy to get distracted and forget about it. Take the safe route. Connect the tow bar only when you're actively using it. Don't leave it connected to help a passenger, go back inside, the FBO, etc. These events can all lead you to forgetting about it. And now the last pro tip. How to determine the farthest and closest point you can glide to. That'd be handy. It is possible to determine the shallowest and steepest angle you can glide while maintaining an airspeed you can land from. What? What? Here's how you do it. That's my impression of a really young kid going like, it's going to be $97. What? Like that. Here's how we do it. That was for fun, so get mad at me, okay? Here's how we do it. From a height of about 3,000 AGL, close the throttle and set the best glide speed. Once the speed's stable, look out of the front windscreen and try to find what area on the ground is remaining stationary. That's where you're going, right? This is where the plane will contact the ground if nothing else is done. Now look at the space between the horizon and that point, right? Look and see how far it is. This is the farthest you can glide and the shallowest angle you can glide at. Now use your fingers and determine how many fingers are between the horizon and that point. So your hand should be stretched out all the way out to the windscreen, as far as you can get in there, and put your hand sideways so your fingers are going in a kind of longitudinally, and then count the number of fingers between the horizon, where your top finger is, and where that point is. Now, it may take two hands. It depends on the airplane. How many fingers? That's an angle. That's as far as you can go. Now, apply maximum allowable flaps and maximum slip if it's allowed in your POH. Stay at the best glide speed. When the speed is stable, notice the point on the ground is closer to your airplane than stationary. More distance from the horizon to the new spot, right? It's going to be a steeper angle. That is the steepest angle you can glide and maintain this speed. Now use your hands like before, measure how many fingers it is from the horizon to this new point. So now you know the shallowest angle and you know the steepest angle. And if you're in between those two, you can make it there. But if you're outside of those two, you can't. All right, that's all I got to say. That's the end of the May 2026 video podcast of Flight Training the Way I See It. We'll see you next month in June. This has been a production of Flight Training the Way I See It. News, tips, and opinion.